video we are going to look at question 1, or what is usually question 1 in your November exam paper, which is equations, solving for x, of in Afrikaans oplossen vir x. So let's look at our first example. So let's say they give us a question like 2x bracket x minus 5 equal to 0. When your numbers are already inside a bracket, right? So in this case, I already have a bracket and this side is equal to 0, then it's not necessary to go and multiply out your brackets because they already gave it to you in factorized form. So this here is your factorized form. So all you have to do is go and find your second bracket, which is going to be 2x, and then you put it equal to 0. So it's going to be 2x equal to 0, or x minus 5 equal to 0. So now I have a linear equation, so I can basically go and say, okay, I need to get x alone, so what do I do over 2? I have to divide both sides by 2, which gives me x is equal to 0. Or on this side, I need to get my x alone, so I have to take over the negative 5, which becomes positive 5. So x is equal to 5. Alright, so another way in which they can give this question to you is they can say x minus 3, x plus 7, for example, equal to 0. Once again, I have my two brackets, and I have a 0, which means this is already in factorized form, meaning I'm not going to multiply out my brackets. So I'm going to take my first bracket, which is x minus 3, I'm going to put it equal to 0, or I'm going to take my second bracket, which is x plus 7, and I'm going to put it equal to 0. And then once again, you have to get x alone, so I take the negative 3 over, it becomes plus 3, so x is equal to positive 3, or on this side, I take over my plus 7, it becomes minus 7, so x is equal to negative 7. Alright, but usually the first question is a question like this. Then we go on to where you now have something that, let's say, is not factorized form. So I give you x squared minus x equals to 12. Now as soon as you see an x squared, I always tell my learners, when you see an x squared, you know, alright, I need to go and use my formula, your quadratic formula. Alright, why? Well, there's a to the power of 2, so it's going to be a quadratic formula. Alright, so that is your formula, which is x is equal to minus b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, this is also the first formula on your formula sheet. So whenever you see an x to the power of 2 or a to the power of 2, anything to the power of 2, you know, okay, I'm going to have to use this formula. Alright, now obviously to use this formula, I first need to get my right hand side equal to 0. So to do that, I need to bring over my 12, and then it becomes minus 12. So x squared minus x minus 12 is equal to 0. Now if you know how to factorize, you can factorize it using trinomials, or you can use your formula. So what is my a value, what's my b value, and what is my c value? So remember, your a is always what is in front of your x squared. So in front of my x squared, I have nothing, which means there's an imaginary 1. Then in front of my x is my b, so in front of there I have a negative 1. And then what is my c value? That is just your number, so that is going to be negative 12. So now I substitute it into my formula, so it's going to be minus, in b's place, remember your bracket is negative 1, plus minus the square root of b, which is negative 1, squared minus 4, a, which is 1, and c, which is negative 12, over 2 bracket 1. And now you're going to work out x. Firstly, you're putting a plus into the equation, so you type it in and you put a plus, and then after that you do the same thing, and then you use the minus. So then you take your minus and you put that into your calculator. Alright, so quickly do that. Okay, So that will give me an answer of x is equal to 4 and x is equal to negative 3. Alright, so whenever you get to a squared question, where there's something to the power of 2, you use your formula. We can also, for instance, give it to you like something like, let's say x squared minus 81 is equal to 0. Same thing, I have a x squared, meaning I'm going to have to use my formula. So what is my a value, what is my b value, and what is my c value? Alright, so I start with my a value. What is in front of my x squared? There's nothing, so there's an imaginary 1. What is my b going to be? Remember, b is what is in front of x. So is there an x somewhere here? No. So my b value is just going to be 0. And then lastly, what is my c? My c is going to be negative 81. Go back to my formula. Alright. So always write down your formula first. Please make sure that you look at your question paper at the back where your formula sheet is, that you write down the correct formula. You don't want to lose marks just because you were too lazy to go and look for the answer. Alright, and then I substitute. So into b I'm putting a 0. Then it's going to be 0 squared minus 4 a c over 2 bracket 1. And then if I put it in firstly with a plus, or I put it in with my minus, so you should get 9 or minus 9. Once again, if you know how to factorize, you can factorize. If not, this is what you do. Alright, so with your questions to solve for x, you always either check is it already factorized, like we had in example number 1 and 2. When you don't do anything fancy, you just put it equal to each other. But if it is not factorized and there's an x squared somewhere, then you know you have to use your quadratic formula.